How are you, Dave?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Hello, Jennifer.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, just wonderful. Go through?
Okay, yeah. Oh, sorry, John.
Someone really greased up.
Yeah, let's talk them up.
Not happy with the grease job on here.
Yeah, none of us are, John.
What is that, by the way?
We don't know, but it's gross.
Yeah, it really is.
You didn't do that?
Yes.
Isn't it
This is
nice?
what I do every day. No butter on toast.
Good.
A little Crisco on it.
Thursday.
Okay.
You tell me. Works?
Yeah, it wheeled. I moved it today.
Dana's on the phone.
Okay.
Is he?
You could just come down here and sit down
You don't believe it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, be careful,
here.
Dan.
No, I really don't, you're right. Just give me a second to find the ballot.
Seven.
I understand, but she just asked for us to give her a minute.
We're good.
All right, welcome to the November 7th, 2022 Village Board meeting. If you could join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have a motion to open the public hearing for the amendments to Chapter 98 zoning law.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody have any?
I have
Okay.
some questions, please.
Sure.
My name is Shannon Prince. I'm from the firm of Boy Schiller Flexner. I'm an attorney representing Hinchin Dairy and 2K Development. My first question is, does the village intend to apply this new zoning law retroactively to the pending application of Hinchin Dairy and TK Development.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, what was the response?
We'll take that under advisement.
So are you declining to respond?
This time.
My next question is, prior to Friday afternoon, was notice of the law provided to the public?
Yeah, it was on our last agenda.
And was the text of the law published anywhere prior to Friday afternoon?
Yes, it was on our website.
Thank you. And my final question is, can the board identify the litigation that caused it to enter executive session at the October meeting?
No.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You wanna state your name?
Sure. Sandy 63 Oak Shadow. I also have one question, but I'll get to it in 1 second. So I was reviewing these changes to Chapter 98, which, of course, I'd be hard-pressed to disagree with some of them. I think there are members of the board here who might recall that I made a presentation precisely 2 years ago that advocated a variety of these changes. But I have two concerns. The first is procedural, which is I hope that you have received your response on the 239 in as much as it's not included in the documentation.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think that's very important because
It was deemed to be a matter of local concern.
cool.
And we did have communications with the county about the law itself informally, and
Good.
they were supportive.
Because I didn't really expect anyone to be here today, but I do have a concern that, you know, I do have a concern that there is standing here for some of the current litigation because there's a right that really belong completely and unconditionally to a party or a property, and it is being taken away, which is specifically the right of anyone who is currently either pursuing an approval, has a approved project, or has a project that has been rejected that's now under review or appeal under an Article 78, that this legislation would be considered as retroactive if the owner didn't consent to the change. And I think that that any owner who's subjected to any new zoning action or classification is presumptively impacted by the change. And there's a lot of case law to support that the courts will not support when that change, this, again, I'm not saying that a litigant would prevail, I'm simply saying that when I read this, I thought, well, I should pop down and just comment that knowing how litigious certain parties can be, I think, and that was why I started with the procedural issue of the 239, I think that there is a real problematic potential for this to be considered something that was retroactive action and legislation to impinge upon a previously vested right that was enjoyed by a particular property holder. I do not necessarily think that that property holder would prevail, or a property holder of that nature would prevail, but I'm concerned that this pathway will lead towards litigation, whereas a pathway which might, for example, take the exact same conjoining of lots definition and of large and small lots and specify that it does not waive, for example, Chapter 98, .1, which is one building or structure permitted on a lot, would be a more suitable
11,
path.
you mean.
11, sorry, would be a more suitable path to take. So in any event, if you have considered that, I was just going to say, if you have considered that, then fire away. If you haven't considered that, I was going to point out that that could be a trap for the unwary, and having come here tonight and seen who is here at the public hearing, I would recommend that if you do not have confidence in that pathway, you postpone passing this law and take it up later after discussion with your attorney. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay,
We have to do seeker first.
sorry.
Oh, we have to do seeker first before we, if we're gonna, oh, you're gonna close the public hearing. but-
I was gonna close the
I'm
public
sorry.
hearing.
Sorry, go ahead.
Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
What was that?
So moved.
So moved in second, all in one? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, minutes. Everybody have a chance to read the minutes?
Mhm. A lot of them.
Yes,
Yes.
very long.
Yes.
So, anybody have any questions regarding the minutes?
Now, I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
All three of them?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, Dave, what were you getting at now?
Oh, so we have the EAF, part one of the EAF, which is, you have in your package, which is a project and sponsor information, and because this is a legislative action, number one of the question, we go immediately to part two, which is also in the package.
Okay.
And the question is, this is an unlisted action, and the question is whether, the impacts that are listed 1 through 11, whether there would be a no or small impact or a moderate to large impact. And I'd like to go through those one at a time and see if anybody has any comments.
Okay.
First one is, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? The narrative that is in part 3 explains why that is not the case in this case. It's a clarification of existing laws. Do we have any comments on that? Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of the use of land? Again, this is a clarification of existing laws. Will the proposed action impair the quality or character of the community? Same comment. Will the proposed action have an impact on environmental characteristics that cause establishment of a critical environmental area? That doesn't seem relevant. Will the proposed action result in adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? We put that as a no or small impact. Will the proposed action cause an increase in energy? I don't think that's applicable. Will the proposed action impact existing private water supplies or wastewater? That's not really applicable here. Will it impair the quality or character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? That doesn't seem applicable. Will it result in adverse change in natural resources? Again, not applicable. Will it result in potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage? Not applicable. Will it create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? Not applicable. Anybody have any comments on those items?
No.
I don't know.
So the proposed, the determination of significance that's been proposed for consideration is that narrative supporting it is the board of trustees of the village's lead agency has determined that there are no significant adverse environmental impacts associated with this local law because it primarily serves to clarify certain existing provisions in the village zoning law related to density, floor area ratio, large lot versus small lot, and retail uses in a manner which is set forth in the proposed resolution to adopt this local law promotes the purposes and goals of the village's comprehensive plan, which is very unlikely to lead to development beyond that currently permitted under the village's existing zoning law. Any comments on that?
No.
So you have in your package a seeker resolution.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to act on that.
Okay, so do I have a motion to pass the resolution as written?
Which is to reference that it's an unlisted action, and that after going through the AF, identifying relevant areas of, considering the criteria contained in subdivisions C of 6 NYCRR Part 617.7 to identify any relevant areas of environmental concern, thoroughly analyze the identified relevant areas of environmental concern to determine if the action may have a significant adverse environmental impact, and completing Part 2 of the EAF and adopting Part 3 of the EAF, which includes the narrative, particularly the reasons supporting the village board's secret determination. And then the resolution is to find that there are no significant adverse impacts on the environment associated with this action, and that an environmental impact statement need not be prepared, and that a negative declaration therefore be issued.
So do I have a motion for passing the resolution?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
And I'll second it.
Any discussion regarding it? Any questions regarding it?
Do roll call vote?
Yes, please.
Mayor Lori Taylor,
Aye.
trustee Dan Peters,
Aye.
trustee John Burbaker,
Aye.
trustee Gerald DeFazio,
Aye.
trustee Tom Meyer.
Aye.
Okay.
We have
All in favor, say aye. Or, well, we already did, sorry. So used to that.
and
Okay.
then now you have the resolution to adopt the local law, which is in the package also.
That is. Okay.
This is number 9.
I think it's 10, yeah.
Local laws is right.
Mhm.
So the resolution, I think, has everybody had an opportunity to look at it?
Mhm.
The publication has happened, the referral to the county, matter of local concern. Seeker's been done, so if you want to take a vote.
Yeah. All right, so do I have a motion to pass the resolution adopting local law 10?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments, questions, concerns?
Roll call.
Yes, please.
Mayor Lori Taylor,
Aye.
trustee Dan Peters,
Aye.
trustee John Burbaker,
Aye.
trustee Jerry LaCasio,
Aye.
trustee Tom Meyer.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Jerry, the 2023 garbage budget.
Okay, so, I was working closely with Liz, the village treasurer. We feel this is a pretty tight budget. There is a slight increase of $6 per unit. There's 938 units in the village now that are billable, that use the garbage services. So in your packets, I'm presenting to you the tentative proposed budget, and I'd like to schedule a public hearing for, I'm guessing, our next meeting.
Mm-hmm, which is November, yeah, I figure it was 17th or 18th. No, I don't have my phone number.
Oh, here's my calendar. That would be the 21st.
Oh,
November 21st.
okay. All right, well, this is the first that people are seeing, the board members are seeing this, so we will look for any, 21st.
Yeah, no, it looks.
We'll be looking for any questions or concerns at that time, so everybody take a chance to review it.
Mhm.
All right, so, do I need a motion to set the public hearing? No, so we're setting the public hearing for November 21st. Anything else, Jerry, on that, or?
Not on that, no.
Okay, thank you. Dan Stone, you on the phone?
I am.
All right, I think you are on the next item.
Yes, the village has reviewed and approved the permit application for Roars Construction. They installed 2 3-inch pipes under wetland DP 22. The pay app has been forwarded to the village with our approval, and it will be submitted to EFC for reimbursement. It's in the amount of $149,252, and we're recommending that pay application be approved.
Okay, does anybody have any questions regarding that?
No.
All right, so can I get a motion to approve that payout?
So moved. I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, next item is the CDBG grant application. We have in our packet, Labella is, Jennifer Vaughn is going to be drafting that application for us in the amount of $3,000. What we are applying for, after looking at several options and what fit this grant, is to be working on upgrading Anderson Way and trying to address, Dan, can you speak more to it? We're going to be addressing the water connections.
This would be for the water main and the service connections between the main and the property. It fits the definition of the CDBG application materials in terms of this is a project that is generally looked at favorably. We learned from Jim Teed when he did his annual water supply inspection that the federal government has passed and the state government is about to pass changes in Part 5 regulations that require inventory of lead service connections, and ultimately it will require removal and replacement. So at the same time that we're replacing the main, we will replace the service lines. We will take inventory to note what those service lines were, and if they're lead, they will be removed. This grant application, that's a part of the project. We worked with Mayor Taylor to try to craft a complete rebuild of Anderson Way. So the CDBG grant would be used to replace the water line. We would also look for money from CHIPS to do the paving. And the other alphabet soup escapes me, but there's another third.
Well, there's another part coming up in another agenda item too, the aerial photography work.
Yeah, but that's part of it, but that's just the basis. So the third part was to replace sidewalks and,
the sidewalks,
and improve
yes.
drainage.
Right.
And I forget what source we were looking at for that money, but we're going to look for another source for that too.
When we looked at the project, the whole project was not going to fit into one particular grant, so we decided to divide and conquer. Like you said, the CHIPS would be then coming in and paving the road. I think we were looking at either another MIG grant or another CDBG grant the following year to actually do the sidewalk work. So right now, while we can, we were going to at least do the water main and the water connections replacement. So that will at least start the project, and then hopefully next year's CHIPS would be able to cover the paving, and then hopefully we would find grant dollars to do the sidewalk work. So.
Good.
Well said.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the $3,000 for the grant application.
I make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, and then just to add, behind that in your packets is also the letter of intent that is due this month in order to apply for that grant. So, okay, if no other questions, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, Dan, you're up again for.
Yep. Yes, I can explain that. We are requesting the board to consider a professional service change order request for the Umshide project. It's in the amount of $30,000. As we rolled up our original proposal, we were obligated to have minority women business contractors provide some of the engineering services that were being applied to the village to bring the project completely to fruition. As I rolled up those numbers and supplied them in Labella's proposal to the village, I overlooked the $30,000 subcontractor proposal to Labella for the electrical work at Umshide. And it was an oversight on my part. I am requesting that the board consider increasing the overall contract value for La Bella so I can cover the expense of my MWBE sub.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, so can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay. Dan, you're up again
Yep.
for technical.
Yes, this a year ago, or before the leaves came out last spring, the board approved a flight over the entire village and the creation of a rectified orthophoto for the whole village. That means it's actually scalable. To use that scalable map, we also need interpretation of the vertical elevation changes. And what this is a request or a proposal to interpret the aerial photo on Anderson Way and also to interpret the aerial photo along all of Lakeside so that we can do a preliminary design in sufficient detail to make us grant eligible for Anderson Way. For Lakeside, the idea is to look at those portions of Lakeside that are narrow and very curvy. Lakeside's currently used for pedestrian traffic and vehicular traffic with very short sight distance, particularly horizontal sight distance. And we would be looking to interpret the aerial photos so we can get good mapping of Lakeside. So again, when the village board is ready, we can do some preliminary designs and then attempt to be shovel-ready and grant-ready should some of the trickle-down infrastructure money come from Washington. The amount of this proposal, if I recall correctly, is $6,100.
Okay, does anybody have any questions regarding that?
That was the Neptune system?
No,
Oh, no.
that's next.
Okay, gotcha, I'm sorry. Okay.
Arrow map it.
Okay.
It's aerial survey mapping.
Okay, got it, okay.
Any other questions?
No, I think it's absolutely necessary in order to.
Yeah, for us to be grant ready, yeah. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, the tie sales for the Neptune 360 Advanced Cloud-Based Program. Our water meter reading has been not cloud-based, and the system is now going all cloud-based, so we need to upgrade, basically. So that's what this next item is about, for $68.37 in total. Dan, do you have anything to say?
No, I think it's,
Okay.
Yeah,
we-
sorry, Dan Peters.
It will be a much better system, it's much more accurate, it will enable customers to have a look for themselves at water, if there's leaks and issues like that, it'll be available for everyone's use. It'll make it much easier for us to monitor the water system.
Is this gonna be compatible with the new billing system that we're looking at?
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
All right. Now, the 6,800, that's part of that is a one-time setup, correct?
Correct,
And part of it would be an ongoing annual?
There
correct.
is an
Annual fee.
Yes, the 2,300 is an
Yeah.
annual.
Okay.
Any other questions? Can I get a motion to approve that?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. We have an engagement agreement with Vanderwater and Vanderwater for conflict counsel, to serve as our conflict counsel for the 2023 year. Anybody have any questions? It's basically the same as what we had done last year as well, or for this year.
The fees are the same?
Yes.
Okay.
Hourly, yes. Mhm. So can I get a motion to approve that?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have a request from Pawling Fire District to reappoint Glenn Carey as a district commissioner. It's a 5-year term from starting January 1st, 2023.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We have a Village Green Public Assembly Event Permit application for Progressive Pawling for the Pride Picnic. They would like to reserve the date of June 25th, 2023. This would be pending receipt of insurance. We have not received that as of yet.
What day of the week is that?
I think it's a Saturday.
We checked that there was no conflicts, right?
What about the farmers?
No, I think it's
Maybe
after.
it's Sunday.
I think it was a Sunday,
It's a Sunday.
Okay.
so it does not conflict
Okay,
with second
fine, that's right.
Saturday
All right.
or the farmer's market. Any other
Motion
questions?
to approve.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye. You said that was pending insurance?
Yes.
Okay.
So this way, they have the date reserved at this point.
Okay.
All right, the Lions Club has put in a request to us to do the memory tree that they do every year, where they put it in the glass window here. So, does anybody have any questions or concerns regarding that?
No, I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And can I get a motion to approve the Metro North Treasurer's Report as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Dan Stone, do you have an engineer's report, anything further than what's been discussed?
Yeah, if I may be brief. The Umchud project is winding down. American Pump is out there now doing the work on the wellheads. We expect to be transitioned from the overland pipe that we installed 2 years ago as part of the emergency approval to be transitioned out of service in the next 3 weeks or so. And the new underground piping that Roars installed earlier, discussed tonight, to be put into service. And that will make the connection between the Umchud well field and the Baxter plant underground, fully permitted and permanent. EFC is going to close with the village on the overall project finance agreement for both grant and loan. That's scheduled, I believe, the first week in December. I don't remember the exact date. There still will be some paperwork to do after that in terms of closing out this last contract with American, making sure all of the financials work precisely. And I believe there will be a small negative change order on the Roars contract coming under the swamp of a savings of about $15,000, and I believe there'll be a similar negative change order on the American pump, although that work isn't done yet, so it's probably a little premature for me to speculate that, but I think it's going well. Rates were mentioned earlier, and I know the trustees received the packet from the mayor on the rate structure. Christine and Jeff Smith and Jeff Leibowitz and I have been working a long time, probably since March, trying to put a rate schedule together that meets the needs of both the village on the water side and Pawling Joint on the wastewater side. It now, all of the trustees now have that information, and I'm available to, after you've looked at it, if you have any questions, please reach out to me, and I'll explain how we got to where we got and what that looks like going forward. I also want to thank Roars and Culp and the highway guys and Rooney for getting a small Environment One pump station and connection from the chamber building to the storage system. The chamber building bathrooms now work, and it was a nice public-private cooperative effort. And finally, we've been in touch with DEC. They are reviewing the applications for Lower Baxter, and I hope that we will get word very soon that the two permits that we need from DEC will be issued to us in the near future. We also have submitted plans to the State Health Department for the sanitary aspects. We have not received any comments yet, but we will continue to work with them and hopefully get a timely review. It is my sincere desire to have the Lower Baxter project out to bid early enough in 2023 so we can have it completely done at the end of 23, and the village will then have completely satisfied all of the Part 5 requirements for water supply. Have you announced the EFC word on the Lower Baxter, Ms. Mayor?
No, I have not.
Well, I will be quiet then while you announce it.
So we were successful in getting our WIA grant application funded for additional help in funding this. So that was a heavy lift, but we still have work to do on it. I believe we have to now do that survey.
The grant was in the amount of $1.2 million on a $2.2 million project, and you received a third subsidy on the interest rate for the loan portion of the agreement. So it really is a big deal. We believe and are recommending that you authorize the income survey, because when we did this previously, the income survey demonstrated that you would qualify for zero interest loan for the wastewater treatment plant. There's every reason to believe that you would also qualify it with a current income survey for a zero interest loan on the water side. So we're recommending that you move forward engaging, I forget the guy's name, who does these surveys, but you have a proposal to that effect. Now that we know we have the grant, it's time to invest in the income survey in anticipation of getting a lower interest rate.
Okay, thanks. Is that everything?
That's all I got.
All right, thank you, Dan.
Pretty brief, huh?
Okay, October bills paid November, amount of $465,636.305. Oh, 465 million. What kind of number am I looking at here? I'm struggling.
$465,636.
$305.
305, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just like blah, 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 blah.
30 cents.
We're missing a little decimal.
I think I-
Something happened there.
Yeah, that sounds
I added
familiar.
something.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Well, second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, and do I have a motion to pay the EFC payment in the amount of $68,551.48?
Much easier, Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So I need a motion to adjourn our regular meeting.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public comment, and then we go into executive session? I'm drawing a blank on myself. Okay. Any public comment?
Just finishing up solitaire. So, yeah, you know, hold on a second. Make sure I get this right. It was funny because, Board, I came here tonight for a different reason than the first reason, but I was struck by the fact that, that happily the Board is very willing and quick to make clarifications to oversights in previously drafted laws, which I think is excellent. You know, I was here about a month ago, and we discussed Chapter 92. Went home, and I was kind of frustrated with myself, with you, and I had my wife. We sat and watched the public comment. And I said, well, you know, maybe if I had approached that a little differently, I could have been more effective, or maybe if I had rallied troops and come with like 50 people who agreed with me, which I know I could find, or 30 people, I would have been more effective. And my wife said, no, they were going to pass that law anyway. And I said, well, I'm going to bet you a cheeseburger that in point of fact, they would have not passed the law, or at the very least made an amendment if I had taken a different approach to what I was doing. Dan, I'm going to vote for you tomorrow, so I sure would like your attention tonight. So had I been, this is really pressing, had I been approaching it differently, what I would have said is, hi, board members, you know, I'm sure that this is just an oversight or a drafting error, that the law includes just the proposed addendum includes a couple of sentences about people going to jail. I might have said that while assurances that no one is going to jail, which I'm sure would come, are heartwarming, it just really is just more of a reason to remove that sentence, because, you know, the jurisdiction for who would or wouldn't go to jail, I believe, would be held at the town court, not at the village court, because we no longer have a court. You know, it's a simple sentence to remove, and I was discussing this with a friend of mine who you probably know by the name of Glenn Utter, who's a law enforcement officer of large standing. He's a large law enforcement officer of large standing, and he pointed out that, you know, lawyers, when they make a drafting error, sometimes forget that in the field, if someone has the opportunity to go to jail, sometimes things go awry. But more importantly, that putting the sentence in is just opens a trap door for things you don't want to have happen. And then I suppose if I had been in that spirit, when Attorney Daniels responded, there was a red herring just to, you know, discredit him, I could have just smiled and said, you know, when you don't have the facts, as I'm sure Attorney Daniels knows, and I know, one of the first things you learn when you're studying the law is that if you don't have the facts, you just attack the opposing litigant. And that's just wrong, because really, as you've done in previous laws, the clarification of removing the sentence is an easy remedy to this problem. And finally, what I should tell you is that, you know, when I said to you guys that this law has the appearance of being racist, it wasn't informed, and I didn't say, that's a quote, I didn't say that you were racist. I said the law has the appearance of being racist. I was saying that was informed by the fact that I've shared this law with a variety of people who are both lawyers, attorneys, community advocates, members of the town board, and each one immediately had the same exact response, which is, if it applies only to multi-family structures, residences, but not apartment buildings in the village, it would seem fairly obvious that, you know, you are making an attempt to regulate, you know, users, particular users, and not necessarily usage. And that's a danger spot. So, you know, I would just share with you that while many of you were not here in 2014, 2 of you, again, standing for election tomorrow, so, you know, I would hope that as you win, you'll consider this kind of feedback for the balance of your terms, is that I should remind you that one member of the board, when this law was introduced in 2014, who had advocated this law for quite some time, said, and I quote, "Those people don't belong here. Why are they parking on their lawn?" Now, that person is not here tonight, so I'm not throwing it at anybody's chest. I'm simply saying that if I had said all that and said it this way, perhaps you would have taken the time to just strike that sentence. So, just as you've done with Chapter 98, I would urge you to go back and look at it, especially those of you who are about to serve an entire new term, because I don't think we should live in a village like that. And also, if you go back and look at it, I personally could win a cheeseburger, and I do love me some cheeseburgers. So that is my comment, and I will
Can I
appeal.
just say one thing?
Yes, sure.
The thing you mentioned about 2014 is, I mean, that's of concern and something that I will advise the board to look at that, so.
Please do, because I think, and thank you for that. I think that if you are to review the amendments to the parking law, and it's not all of this is minuted, but all of the discussion around the parking laws, what you will find is that there were some aggressive tactics and aggressive language that was used when thinking about changes to our parking law, and they especially revolved around that 2014 amendment. So I would urge you again, I said your assurance is heartwarming, but it is so easy to strike that one sentence and apply it.
If I could just one more thing,
Yes.
just say, I mean, the law, you can call it drafting or you can call it whatever you want, but it really was, that law was done, there were certain violations that have been pointed out by the parking enforcement officer, by the mayor, and by our parking consultant as needing to be included in the schedule. They're really, I mean, and again, my context of this is having been a town judge for 17 years up until a couple months ago, you know, all the vehicle traffic laws have jail time. And
Yeah.
so when I did see that, I actually saw that, and I said, you know what, it doesn't, you're never gonna have jail time, so let's just get this done. I understand what you're saying, you know, it's not.
We live in interesting times,
Yeah,
and
well,
I'm
listen,
afraid that they may get more
yeah,
interesting.
I will say that I think you're 100% correct, that when you approach things the way you have tonight, it certainly makes things much more fertile for, you know, constructive discussion, so I appreciate that.
You can have half the cheeseburger.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, so can I have a motion now to go into executive session for litigation?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody, and good night.
Thank you, Dan. Good night, Dan.
Look at the boat.
Oh, yeah. You get up early and go boat.
I don't know. Someone said that he would. I hope that's.
all do.
Get with it, their elevators.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll put it in the budget, yeah, thanks.
Everybody went home.
And even like, I didn't want to talk to Jerry. He's so annoying.
Don't touch it, it's Steve's.
Look good, that'd be right. You look good, Dad.
We're having fun.
We're live.
Having a blast.
Come on.
Okay.
Hear you, hear you.
We're live.
We are. Somebody, yeah, aren't you in charge of these tables, aren't they? You were-
I didn't clean them, I didn't put this crap in there.
It's like a pile.
All right, so no decisions were made or any votes taken. Do I have a motion to close executive session?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Do I have a motion to go back into regular session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And do I have a motion to close regular session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's a lot of.
That was
Well,
good.
aye.
Smooth as ever.
Good night, everybody.